Before we get started, remember to hit the like button. It helps with the algorithm. YouTube is not exactly favorable to our commentary. So there you go. Let's get right into it, man. Let's get right into it. Let me break this down for you. So today, 25th of September, day 14 in the Julian Assange extradition hearing. So before we had the first testimony from Patrick Eller, who was the expert witness, he was actually supposed to start testifying, and it was noted that the prosecution sent him the bundle in the middle of the night, which they love doing. If you've been paying attention to all the other expert witnesses, you know, they just lump them with hundreds of documents within 24 hours of their testimony. It's just ridiculous. So he asked for an hour so that he could actually read the stuff. And while he was doing that, something very interesting happened. So, well, several interesting things, right? Not a minute goes by in this hearing where something interesting doesn't happen. So the defense, they were arguing for more time to finish writing up and submit the closing statements, right? So they initially asked for a month before yesterday. So judge didn't seem too favorable, but actually she did end up giving it to them, right? So she had said she was going to give a weekend, right? After the testimony's finished next week, she'll give them a weekend into week 5. But she changed her mind. So they're going to have a month. And let it be noted that it's Assange who suffers during this month, right? Because, I mean, he's the guy who's locked up in Belmarsh. It's not the prosecution or the defense team, right? He's the one who has to feel the full brunt of the incarceration. And so it's you know, more time, but it's necessary for them to build the defense. And you got to remember that he was given this superseding indictment the day the hearing started. And almost immediately after, when they were asking the judge to throw out the conduct without further consideration, she refused. Afterwards, they asked if she'll consider adjourning the hearing until January, which would add 4 months, right, to his incarceration. And she even refused that. So that was actually quite surprising. She gave them the 4 weeks, even though it's going to be a written statement. But nonetheless, another thing that was really, I don't know if this was a slip of the tongue. I don't know what made her say this, but she asked whether the elections in November, the presidential elections in the US on November 3rd, if they would impact the case. Translation, she's very conscious of the fact that this is a political trial. I mean, if Julian Assange really did commit a crime, and we have solid legal grounds for this entire hearing, what difference would it make who the president is? The law's the law, right? Oh, that's not what's happening. We know very well from the past few weeks of testimony and what's been happening that Donald Trump is directing this, right? This came straight from the president. He's telling the DOJ what to do, and they're more than happy to oblige him. And so it's every bit political, right? And we also had Cassandra Fairbanks' statement. I mean, it's just, we have Trump himself, Jeff Sessions, William Barr, all of them openly saying, yeah, we're going to go after WikiLeaks. And so we already know it's political. The very things that Assange disclosed, these are government secrets pertaining to war crimes. The very nature of what he published is political. So you didn't need anyone to say anything from the U.S. government to know that. Just the fact he's being prosecuted over these documents makes it political. So to hear that from the judge, that she's inquiring whether the U.S. presidential elections will impact the case. What? Why should they? What are you saying here? Yeah, she's not stupid. We know she's not stupid. And like I said, me and I think everybody else observing this, you know, we're pretty much expecting the judge to already have drawn up conclusions, you know, I mean, before the first day of the hearing. So that was insane that she would even say that. I think it was a slip of the tongue. And it just goes to show you how even if they admit something or talk about it in a very brazen manner, it doesn't matter. They don't care. No one is going to hold them accountable, and they're still going to do whatever they like. Some legal system, right? So anyway, let's get into the right. So another thing, one more thing, which was also extremely damning. So the defense, they wanted to add more evidence to the case. They wanted two people who work in the U.S. Bureau of Prisons to give their testimony, their statements, and the judge refused. Right? She says, "Oh, you've already handed in evidence too late." Like, what the hell? The whole indictment was given to Assange the day the hearing started, and you were fine with that, and it was submitted a year after the deadline. The indictment, the fucking case, is late. Never mind some witness statements. What are you talking about? She didn't care. She's just trying to screw over the defense. And this is extremely crucial to have these two testimonies, because one of them is a psychologist, right, in U.S. prisons. But both of these people, they work in the U.S. Bureau, the U.S. Prison system. And we need them. We need these people to tell the court, to tell the judge that the conditions are inhumane, right? Because, I mean, so far we've had, Crosby, for example, Dr. Crosby, she's worked with people in Guantanamo Bay, right? We've had, Carrie Shankman, we've had Trevor Tim, we've had Eric Lewis, we've had people that are journalists, that are human rights lawyers. Some of them have been to prisons, others have not. We've had doctors that have worked with detainees in the U.S. But here, like these two witnesses that the defense wanted to add, they work 24/7 in the prison system. That's my point. Do you understand? That's why it's so crucial to have their statements. And she blocked it. She's like, no, she won't accept it. Because remember, if you can show that the extradition will have adverse and grave effects on the prisoner's health, then you can block it, right? So very convenient that she wouldn't accept their statements. So after this first hour or so of case management, you had the first expert witness testifying. So Patrick Eller. So this guy, he's had 20 years of service in the U.S. Army. He works in the IT department. He's an expert on computer forensics. And the reason they brought him in is to talk about the one of the counts that is in the indictment alleging cybercrimes, right? So what do they allege? They allege that Julian Assange asked and helped, or tried to help, allegedly, Chelsea Manning to hack this password, right? To get FTP user access. So we'll get to that in a second. But that's one of the counts in the indictment, one of the 18 counts. So yeah, you can see here, I was posting this on Twitter. So this is what they allege. That Assange told Manning that Assange would have someone to try to crack a password hash to enable Manning to hack into a U.S. government computer. So that's what they're alleging. And Eller was here to talk about this because he knows exactly what this is, his bread and butter, you feel me? So this is his domain. Now, right, we also had this submitted by the defense. So if you guys recall Der Freitag, this is the German newspaper that published on August 25th, 2011, that, there's this encrypted file floating around the internet. And here's the password from David Lee's book. Go look for it. Essentially drawing attention to the fact that this file was even online to begin with. They're the first to publish about it. And we had Augstein submit his witness statement, and he testified in the court. He said in his witness statement that Assange called them up and told them not to publish this article because it would let people know about the existence of this thing. And he also asserted that the file was not from Assange, right? It was mirrored from Domscheit Berg. But we went over this article a few days ago, right? I'm sure you guys remember. So that was really important that he said this, that Assange even called him up to say don't publish it. This is very important, okay? So moving on to Patrick Eller's testimony, right? So I posted some of his credentials here, and he goes through and schools the prosecution. He schools Eric Lewis on encryption, right? Lewis, I mean, this guy was essentially telling him that Chelsea Manning, okay, he was saying that they were using LM hash, which is this old encryption from back in the 90s, right? Made by Microsoft. And he was saying, oh, look, it's really simple. You know, it's broken down from 14 to 7 characters, and then it's turned into uppercase, and it's separated into 2 files, and it's so easy to crack. And, you know, this was present all the way up into machines dating way past Windows XP, which is what was installed on the computers that the U.S. Army were using. And his point was that, well, there was a vulnerability. This encryption was weak, and so therefore it was hackable. It was susceptible to brute force attacks, right? Which is nonsense. And so Eller tells him, no, that's not true. This was patched in 1999, and you can't hack it. It's impossible. It just doesn't work. You can't hack this encryption. And it's not just a question of the encryption was patched. This algorithm was patched. The issue is that you're missing the encryption key. You only got this partial hash that was mentioned in the chat logs, right? In the Jabber conversation between Chelsea Manning and allegedly Julian Assange. We don't even know if it's Julian Assange. We don't have proof of that. So he's telling him it's impossible. And Lewis is like, well, could a computer genius hack it? He made some stupid comment. Hold on, I got to show this to you. So this is from Kevin. And I replied to him. And so Lewis, essentially, he said, how about if the strongest hacker, could they break the strongest encryption? Talking about it as if you can just use Jedi mind tricks. Oh, look, it's the strongest hacker. He can do it definitely, right? Right? It's hackable by the best hacker, right? It's just absurd and ludicrous. Doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. It's just like when he's talking about psychiatry. So I posted this lovely little snapshot that we looked at the other day. James Lewis, a charming man with a mega brain. Yes, indeed, a mega brain he has. So that was just absurd what he was trying to say. Now, going back to the count of hacking, you got to understand something, man. You have to understand this chat log. Okay, the Jabber chat log. I pulled it up for you over here. This is allegedly between Assange, who is supposedly Nathaniel Frank. We don't actually know that that's Assange. It's just assumed it is, but we don't have concrete proof. And nobody, okay, the alias nobody, that's Chelsea Manning. So again, this partial hash that they had in here, it's not enough to do anything with it. And you need to understand that this thing was useless, because what they did in Chelsea Manning's court-martial, and Kevin covered this back in 2013. So they were repeating all of that stuff again today and saying that, well, clearly what Chelsea was trying to do is crack this password so she could get FTP user access. And then she would have access to the T drive and the SIPRNet network, right? This is the classified DoD network. And then she could copy all of these classified documents without being detected. Well, that's not true. So Eller explained this to Lewis, and he reiterated the same thing when he was being examined and then re-examined by the defense, which is that it doesn't matter if you have FTP user access, because you could still be identified. The IP address, for example, that's one way they could narrow down who copied the files or accessed them, right? Moreover, I mean, some of these things, Chelsea Manning was already... Well, okay, I'll get to that in a second about our authorization. But do you understand the principle here? That it doesn't matter if they were even hypothetically able to crack this password, which they couldn't do because it's impossible, even with the best hacker, Mr. Lewis QC, okay? Even the best hacker would not be able to crack that, right? So this is just, it's not feasible. Moreover, even if they could, in some alternate universe, it's useless because you could still be traced. Moreover, why would Chelsea Manning do this when she was able to copy files undetected using Just a live CD with an image of Linux. I mean, these computers had no BIOS protection. So she just put in a CD and boot up from Linux, and then she can just copy whatever she wants without being unmasked, like if she'd used FTP access or just her own user account. So do you understand? There was no logical reason to even attempt to crack this password. It was just futile. But they're grasping onto this as solid proof that, look, this is a conspiracy to hack. They didn't even do it. It's just, it's an alleged attempt. And they don't even know if that's Assange on the other end. So that's one thing. And another thing is that you got to remember, Daniel Ellsberg said this last week in his testimony, that most of these war crimes, they weren't even classified top secret. Anyone has access to these. These are just basic field reports. Like the stuff that he was writing in Vietnam. Do you understand? And that indicates a normalization of war crimes. Like they don't even bother hiding this stuff. And the defense asked Eller, Patrick Ellers, testifying today, how many people have access to the CyberNet system? Take a guess. What's your estimate? And he said, millions? Yeah, definitely, easily. So they're not even trying to hide this stuff. You know, Chelsea Manning was authorized to take these documents. And moreover, the timestamps do not add up, because this chat over here from Jabber was after she had already sent the rules of engagement files, the Iraq war logs, Afghan war diary, you know, essentially the treasure troves. Already sent them. She'd already given them to Assange. So none of this adds up, man. None of this adds up. But they're grasping at straws. They have to, right? Because this case is standing on, you know, on no legs, essentially. So once again, I mean, even if she were able to crack this password to get FTP user access, it's pointless. You could still be found out. And you know, there's also you have to take into consideration these insurer, right? And what was insane is that Eller's testimony, right, was actually in line with the prosecutions in the case of Chelsea Manning's court-martial. So let me translate that for you. Today, the U.S. prosecution, headed by Lewis, were contradicting the prosecution in Chelsea Manning's court-martial. Like, they can't make their fucking minds up on who's right. This is insane. It's really something else. So, you know, it's just another indication of how they're willing to go through with these mental gymnastics and jump through hoops and bend the story and bend the law, whichever way they please, to crap all over whistleblowers and journalists. They don't care. They'll contradict themselves. Remember, this is the U.S. government. All right? So, yeah, then afterwards at the end of the proceedings today, there was some back and forth in the court regarding the disclosure of Assange's medical reports. So the prosecution and the defense, they're actually in agreement that maybe it's not in the best interest to give out the medical reports to the press, because a member of the press requested them, and you know, the prosecution and the defense both essentially said, well, look, if they're requesting them, it's up to them. The burden is on the press to argue why they need this, right? So typically what you'll see, what you've seen in the past in court, is that they'll say things like, well, you know, if we're missing certain bits of information and we need to report a full picture to the public and we need to do our best to inform the public. I think we've been informed well enough. I mean, look, man, I can't speak for anyone, but I'm just saying the whole point of raising the mental health concerns and physical ones, right, is to show that this extradition would be harmful. And you want to argue that in court under Section 91 of the Extradition Act to say that, look, the defendant, the prisoner, is already suffering. They have XYZ, whatever it is. And extraditing them is only going to exacerbate their condition. That's the whole point. And that was argued by several doctors and several conditions already. Asperger's, depression, PTSD. I mean, we get the picture here. It's not, the issue is not for the public to get it. The fucking court needs to get it. So the extradition is blocked. And even then, I think you could bring 50,000 doctors and the judge and the prosecution are still going to get their way because they're not honest actors. That's the reality of it. This whole fucking trial is a pony show. It doesn't matter how many doctors. I mean, you got Koppelman, who's the leading fucking doctor in the UK when it comes to neuropsychiatry. Lewis wouldn't even leave him alone. He's coming and giving him crap, acting like he doesn't know what he's talking about. I mean, this is absurd. So anyway, that's it. Day 14. So we got one more week left of testimonies, and then you'll have a month for defense and prosecution to submit these written closing arguments. And then the judge said today that she'll deliver a decision in 2021 in January. So, I mean, given the fact that on the first day, Julian's defense, they asked for the hearing to be adjourned till January. I mean, if the guy's going to wait anyway for you to give a goddamn decision, you could have at least given him time to build a defense, right? A proper defense, seeing as you lumped him with this warrant on the day of his arrest, on the day of the hearing was supposed to begin. Didn't even give him time to prepare a proper defense. And now he's only getting 1 month. Just one. You got to really think about that. That might sound like a lot of time. It's not a lot of time, because look at all these expert witnesses that are coming through. Each one of their testimonies is worth its weight in gold, except the ones the prosecution called. But they're actually self-incriminating because they just admitted they don't know what they're talking about when it comes to U.S. prisons. Anyway, regardless, these expert witnesses, man, you got seasoned veterans, journalism, from human rights lawyers, people that are the best of the best when it comes to neuropsychiatry and forensics, and people who've worked directly with detainees that have been locked up in these extremely harsh facilities like Guantanamo or ADX. So you really got people who know what they're talking about. You couldn't get any better witnesses. And to put all of that into, and to condense all of that, it's really an exhaustive effort. So 1 month is really not enough time. But again, this wanting to disclose the medical reports, I mean, dude, just these last 3 days that we've witnessed, that was already really severe breach of Assange's privacy. And again, it's a necessary evil because you need to argue it under Section 91 so you can hopefully block the extradition. Yes, but at the same time, I think it was quite exhaustive. I mean, there's nothing that they didn't talk about. And, you already saw, I just saw this morning in the Associated Press, you know what they're saying about Assange? Oh my God, he was binge watching videos of that suicide at the ICC. And I was like, that's not the fucking point. The suicidal ideation is coming from the fear of being incarcerated for 175 years in ADX Florence, okay? There are real underlying medical conditions here, very severe ones that are being heavily exacerbated by the confinement in the Ecuadorian embassy and now in Belmarsh. And what's to come in Alexandria Detention Center and then ADX Florence? That's the real fucking issue. But of course, they're not focusing on that. They just want clickbait. So, I mean, transparency is one thing. Showing the public that the defendant, who is completely innocent, just a journalist, is going to suffer is one thing. But then giving this as, a treasure trove of clickbait ammunition for the Daily Mail and every other news outlet in between. Oh, I don't want to imagine. They're already doing it with the little information that they can get. And, that's just going to make it worse, I think. I mean, it's not my place to say anything about that, but, I'm just seeing and observing that already they're doing the whole clickbait regime with that. So, of course they would. Of course they would. They won't even advocate on his behalf to begin with. What do you expect? Just horrible stuff, man. And, these people call themselves journalists. Fuck out of here. So, that was essentially it for day 14. I hope that was as concise as I could make it. And let me tell you, man, the technical jargon, I mean, I'm very literate when it comes to tech, and even, trust me, you don't want me to get in more detail than that. I tried to simplify it and summarize it as best as I could, and I think, and I hope, I strive for that to be as accurate as possible and as informative as possible. Yes? So, If you have any comments, if you have any questions, please feel free. Go ahead. Let me see what we can do over here. Wow, we got 100 people watching. Pas mal, pas mal. Make sure you hit the like button, please. It helps with the algorithm. Let me see if we got any if you got any questions or something. Yeah. No, I have not seen anything in the British news either. I mean, besides the Daily Mail, which is actually, I mean, it really says something when the Daily Mail are talking about this and no one else is. That says something weird. And, you know, the Guardian are also suspiciously silent, given the fact that one of their journalists, David Lee, published the password to these unredacted files, right, in his book. So I don't think they have much of a vested interest in covering this case. There you go, man. There you go. All right, so look, I'm gonna leave this as it is. I hope that was informative. I hope that this helped. And with that said, please consider supporting the show. You can do that on PayPal, on Venmo, on CashApp, whatever is good for you, and it would really go a long way. So I really appreciate all the support, and thank you for keeping independent media going. Moreover, if you want, you can sign up on Patreon as well. Again, every time we go live, I post on Patreon, so you hopefully get a notification in case YouTube does not oblige you. So thank you very much for supporting independent media. I really appreciate it. We got a super chat from Veo. It says, watch Max's interview on Katie Halper. It's something. I haven't seen it yet. When was this filmed? Hold on, I'm trying to like check it out in the background. Thank you for that. Thanks for the heads up. Merci. So thank you very much, guys, for supporting the show. It really means a lot. I'm going to leave this video as it is now, and I'll catch you guys very soon, okay? Be safe, take care,